do with my company all the time. I'll send them, we're not in the office, and the office is empty. And to me, that sucks. I want people back in. That's where everything is in the newsroom. And they don't see it. Push back. Dude, that was the lamest assignment ever. You could have done this.
All right, so the other name that I had forgotten for you was Pat Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y. He's a captain detective. So he'll be the other person in the lineup. So you're going to have Lindsay Rotolo, Yolanda Melville, James Haggerty, Joe Walsh, Pat Murray, and Sharon Easton. In addition to Fred White, the Attorney General, and he's Abbassi of coach.
I just definitely don't want to talk.
So what are your plans?
I don't know yet. I think I can do woodworking. Make cutting boards, sell on Etsy, make cabinets. I have a fun. But as for photojournalism,
Right.
All kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of things.
I hear you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here on relatively short notice. This is a really great day. On March 27th, I stood outside of the Paterson Police Department and announced that I was exercising my supersession authority over the department. I stand before you today under very different circumstances. We're no longer outsiders looking in. The team from my office and the transition team on the ground has spent a lot of time over the past 6 weeks getting to know its residents and the officers of this department. The Paterson community, I have to say, has welcomed us. I know there's a lot of work left to do. I know that there are a lot of strong feelings, and we've heard from residents of the community and begun that process. And I know that some folks may still be skeptical, but there are many members of the community that have been willing to take that leap of faith, and I want them to know how grateful I am for that. I think people in this city, and frankly officers in this department, know that change is necessary. We've heard it from countless people in this incredible city. They want change that can only and will only be realized if we work together. And so I hope that what we're doing today, as I stand before you, is ushering in a new day for the city of Paterson and a new direction for its police department. When I made the decision to assume control of the police department, I recognized that the most critical element of our success here would be identifying the right person and the right team to lead our day-to-day operations through the reformation of this department. I found that leader in Abbassi. I'm going to speak more about Officer in Charge Abbassi in a few moments. I assure you I'm not going to go on. I see Sean getting nervous. But before I do, I want to thank Major Fred Fife from the State Police. Major Fife, as did everybody up here from my office, volunteered to be here. He volunteered to come into this department on March 27th into an unknown situation, knowing that his leadership would be temporary, knowing that the task ahead would be difficult, and knowing that many of the decisions made may in fact be unpopular by the people he was leading. He nevertheless took that step because he knew that these decisions were necessary for the overall health of the department and the safety of the city. Major Fife has demonstrated time and again truly selfless service to the people of the city and the officers of this department, just as he has done, frankly, for the residents of this state throughout his career. So, Major Fife, allow me to extend my deepest gratitude on behalf of the state of New Jersey, and I believe I can say on behalf of the people of Paterson and this great city. The work you've done over the past 6 weeks has laid an incredibly strong foundation for Officer in Charge Abbassi to come into. So thank you for what you've done here.
Thank you, Joe.
And I also know that Major Fife was not alone over the past several weeks. He was joined by a transitional team led by members of the state police attorneys from my office, as well as local law enforcement, all of whom have worked tirelessly to prepare for the next phase of the transformation of the Paterson Police Department, and many of whom will be staying on to assist Officer in Charge Abbassi. And I have to say, there has been tremendous support from within the department, much more so than I think, I'll speak for myself, I even anticipated on March 27th. So I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to folks, many of whom are up here, who have led this effort: Assistant Attorney General Joe Walsh, Deputy Attorney General Cynthia Vasquez, Assistant Prosecutor Mary Catherine Ryan, State Police Captain Jeff Kamandruk, Deputy Sergeant First Class John Sipot, Deputy Sergeant Jason Wiswesser, Detective Ross Soares, and Detective Richard Hershey. Thank you all for your tireless work, and I mean tireless if you knew the times of some of the phone calls we were having over the past 6 weeks, as well as your continued service to Paterson and to the state as we move forward. And again, I also want to acknowledge the women and men of the Paterson Police Department. It could not, and I know it wasn't, easy for many of them to have our team come in and have the department placed even more under a microscope. But the vast majority of officers have welcomed our team. They've embraced the changes that we've made, and they know that these are just the beginning, that there is more to come. I especially want to thank Captain Pat Murray, Lieutenants Anthony Hyatt and Sharon Easton, who've taken on leadership roles while working alongside our team, and I should say helping build bridges with community members, many of whom, as I said on March 27th, have not wanted to engage with the department for a long time. I also want to thank 2 additional people from my team: First Assistant Lindsay Rotolo, who has been on the ground in Paterson since March 27th effectively and has been coordinating efforts from my office, and my senior counsel Yolanda Melville, who I think has a second home in Paterson now, and has been coordinating with this team on much of the community outreach, as well as the communications team, who all the press know well, who have picked up additional responsibilities coordinating with the city that we now oversee. Over the past 6 weeks, the team here has worked tirelessly to analyze the existing systems, as well as the resources that exist here. They've put in place new policies and protocols. They've improved communication both within the department as well as externally with the community and the public. And there are many, many other things that I could go into. The transition team has prioritized a plan to ensure that public safety was maintained through the implementation of best practices and creating a nexus to police and civilian encounters. To ensure that police officers have the tools they need, we've begun a training effort covering various policies and directives, and this includes formalizing a new deconfliction policy and a process to ensure that resources are allocated efficiently and in coordination with law enforcement partners. Paterson Police Department officers have received new training in effective patrol techniques with a focus on constitutional policing. Again, the bare minimum of what officers are required to do. These sessions included Fourth Amendment law in a classroom setting, as well as participation in live scenarios likely to occur in the course of everyday police work, which include motor vehicle stops. The team's also begun the process of providing new technology to the Paterson Police Department, as well as connecting officers with our statewide Regional Operations and Intelligence Center, the ROC, and the vast capabilities that the ROC offers to support precision policing and intelligence-based policing. The transition team is also coordinating training to equip additional officers with conducted energy devices, also known as tasers, in order to provide an additional less than lethal option when de-escalation techniques prove unsuccessful. Most importantly, and most critically to our ongoing efforts, the members of the transition team, Officer in Charge Abbassi, Major Fife, and myself, as well as members of my office, have spent the last 6 weeks meeting with the community, both its leaders and residents, listening to them, hearing their concerns. Last week, I held a listening session, as many of you know, that lasted about 4 hours, where hundreds of residents came to be heard. They shared their stories, and members up here and members of the department listened to their stories. I know that they were heard, and that their voices, as will carry into the work that we're doing here. As difficult as it is to sometimes hear that, I know it's important for us to continue the healing process and building a better department. I want to thank each and every resident who came out, including the many who stayed all 4 hours. I know that they didn't have to be there, but by them showing up, it's going to encourage additional residents to come out. Them showing up and sharing their thoughts in such a clear and sometimes painful, but open and transparent way. I'm deeply grateful to them. This is just a first step. Communication between law enforcement and the community never ends. It's essential and ongoing. And to demonstrate our commitment to that work, Officer in Charge Abbassi will detail his plans for listening sessions, as well as additional communication tools that we're going to be implementing in just a few moments. Make no mistake, though, the upcoming listening sessions that Officer in Charge Abbassi is going to be hosting won't be his first meetings with community members. While he starts today, he's been doing double duty now for the past 6 weeks and has been on the ground consistently, meeting with members of the community, meeting with government officials, meeting with the officers of the department, meeting with residents, and listening. And for that, I'm grateful. And from this, he's developed an impressive plan to jumpstart the work of the Paterson Police Department, which he's going to share with you shortly. It's a strong and clear vision for the city, as well as for its police force. It's a plan that takes into account the importance of creating strong community ties, as well as the well-being of our officers. It's a plan that, again, builds on the listening we have done in partnership with the community. Officer in Charge Abbassi has proven himself to be a leader who can bring police and community together, even when the relationship might seem irreparable. While with the New York Police Department, he served at a time when tensions between police and the community were reaching a boiling point. It was through his leadership, his outreach, and the teams that he built that he was able to help restore and strengthen community trust and achieve law enforcement excellence through his innovation at the highest levels of the profession in this country. These two goals, as I said on March 27th, go hand in hand. Public safety and community trust are not two things that we have in silos. They are two essential ingredients to ensuring that law enforcement can do its job. Without trust, there simply can be no public safety. So today I'm returning to Paterson to repeat the same pledge that I made 6 weeks ago. To every resident of the city and every officer of this department. The state of New Jersey is committed to the safety and success of the entire Paterson community. And I personally am committed to that success. With me today is my partner in that pledge, a leader who is keenly aware of the challenges ahead of him, but who has the drive, commitment, skill, and respect for the residents of this community to make what I believe can be the case, the Paterson Police Department, a model and an example of excellence and innovation in policing, and a source of great pride for the residents of this special city. So with that, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce Officer in Charge of the Paterson Police Department, Issa Abbassi.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I would first like to thank Attorney General Platkin, First Assistant Attorney General Lindsay Rutolo, for all of their support during this transition. I must also acknowledge the New Jersey State Police, Colonel Patrick Callahan, his entire command staff, as well as the members of the transition team led by Major Fred Fife and Deputy Attorney General Joseph Walsh. Today's an exciting day in the city of Paterson. It's the day we start to lay the foundation for excellence in public safety. A foundation that will be built upon for many years to come. This is a challenge that will be difficult and will take time. But today, we prepare for the next generation of policing. Our next gen vision is just that. A vision that will become a plan with the help of the community, government officials, and members of the Paterson Police Department that all share a common goal. Providing safety while ensuring accountability and earning trust. Policing can no longer be viewed as a monopoly, where you take the services we provide with no alternative option. We are a service provider, and we must provide that service in the way our customer expects. Our next-gen vision is built upon 4 pillars, each of them having many individual strategies to support them. Those pillars are rebuilding trust and restoring order in the community, the redefining or evolution of community policing, innovation, technology, and strategic evaluation, and finally, recruitment, training, and employee well-being. This vision, which is detailed in our next-gen document, will serve as the basis for many important conversations about public safety in the city of Paterson in the days and weeks to come. But we have already begun the process of change, providing supplemental training for our members in the areas of constitutional policing and use of force, enhancing supervisory oversight at all levels of the organization, engaging community partners in our vision and our plans. We've also commenced a top-to-bottom review of policy, procedures, and equipment. We're revamping our websites and social media presence. And we're aligning our vision for what public safety in Paterson could look like with the vision of our community. Moving forward, we have already begun developing a customized plan that incorporates public sentiment and conducting listening sessions in every ward of this city. We will be providing regular progress reports along the way so that we may stay accountable to our commitments. And I am confident that we will make public safety in the city of Paterson a model for others to follow. The next generation of public safety starts today, and it starts in Paterson, New Jersey. Thank you.
Take a few questions. Tracy?
Officer in charge of Abbassi, how do you define success? How do you know when you can leave? How do you know, how can you please define your yardstick that you'll be using?
So that is a great question. You know, defining success is very different than declaring victory, right? The definition of success is exactly what I said, right? If we're able to build a foundation here, accepted by the community, in line with the community's expectation, but respectful of the officers, the men and women of the Paterson Police Department that do this job every day, innovating, implementing, making the Paterson Police Department the thought leader in the state of New Jersey in the area of law enforcement. I think that is my measurement of success. And when I see, the Paterson Police Department regarded in that light and thought of in that way, I think that is the signal that my work is coming to here. There's innovation, when it goes too long, becomes consistency, and that's a bad thing.
That's a rather amorphous answer. You're mentioning the status reports and updates that you'll be doing. I mean, are there metrics involved? Like, how do you know when you can leave?
Yeah, so we'll be, as part of our vision, once we align the vision, we'll be putting out a strategic plan. That plan will have definite initiatives and activities that will be completed on a timeline, and progress along that timeline will be made public on a regular basis.
Is this a hostile takeover of the police department?
It's absolutely no hostility in my leadership of that police department, and I made that clear to the membership this morning. Although I'm hired by the Attorney General, I am an independent police chief in charge of the Paterson Police Department, here to serve this community and this agency. And my #1 priority is ensuring the safety of the men and women of the Paterson Police Department and of this community.
And the reason I ask that question, if you look around the room, you don't see the mayor, you don't see the prosecutor, you don't see many of the politicians that have dealt day to day with the issues here in Paterson. So it gives the impression that there's a separation instead of collaboration.
Yeah, this is a law enforcement announcement, but we're working closely with city officials, with the prosecutor, and we will continue to do so. But as Officer in charge Abbassi said, he's here to lead the department, and we have developed tremendous support from within the department. I'm grateful for that, but also support from within the city. David?
Thanks. First, Chief, and then if I could ask a question of you, General. First to the Chief. what is it about your philosophy or experience that makes you the person best equipped to handle this job?
So I think, and philosophy is a great word, right? Philosophically, we talk about the evolution of policing and public safety. And I think, we have to understand what this next generation of policing is. And I think, to sum it up, police, police as a profession needs to hear the voices of those we serve in our daily management. It's not something where we exist in a vacuum and then report out with no two-way communication. So philosophically, I think, incorporating the city, incorporating the residents, the elected officials, the government into the day-to-day management of the department, but then also recognizing the great work when it is being done. So accountability is important, trust and transparency are important. But we also have to realize we have a police department that exists 365 days a year. There is a lot of good work being done, and somebody needs to tell that story.
I missed your answer. It was, what is about your personal philosophy or experience that made you the person best suited for this job?
So, let me be direct then. I believe in strong oversight and accountability. I hold supervisors and executive staff strictly accountable. I believe in public communication and transparency. I believe in letting the community and the government know what the mission and the agenda of the police department is, and I will report step by step on how we accomplish those tasks.
More hiring, are you doing more hiring because
Sorry.
hiring has always been an
I
issue?
think David has a question.
I had one for the general. So you said before, we're no longer outsiders looking in. That's a pretty bold statement after 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, first he's gonna be modest, so let me give a little more color on why Officer in Charge Abbassi is the right person for this job. We quietly engaged in a national search to identify law enforcement leaders who could potentially do this. And the name that kept coming up was Abbassi. And so when we had our team met with him, and then when I had the chance to meet with him, his background was clear. This is somebody who has risen to the top ranks of one of the largest departments, not just in the United States, but in the world. He's been a reformer within that department. He was somebody who was put in for tough tasks, and you don't get put into tough environments if leadership doesn't have trust in you. And as it was said to me is, don't go with Abbassi if you don't want somebody who's going to make some changes. And when I met with him, he could attest, I didn't let him leave my office because I knew he was the right person. And so I am convinced that we have found somebody who will be a transformative leader in the city of Paterson, and everything in his background suggests that. My statement about no longer being outsiders looking in, we have a lot to learn. Let me be clear. We're in the beginning part of this. But we're on the ground, and that's what I meant. We are here. We have been here for 6 weeks and a day. It's not a long time, but it's long enough to get a sense of the needs of the department, and more importantly, the concerns of the community. And that work is ongoing. You're going to see as officer in charge is doing 6 listening sessions over the next few weeks. But it will continue. And as Tracy asked me, what does success look like? The metrics will be laid out over the course of the next several weeks and couple of months as we continue to work in partnership with the community to develop that full strategic plan. But let's not make any mistake about this. There's going to be no mission accomplished banner in the next 6 weeks or 6 months. This is going to be an operation that's measured in terms of months and years, and I think the public needs that. They need to understand that we're bringing that stability. This is a department that has not had stability for a long time. And I am committed to that. I know the state of New Jersey is. And I know Officer in Charge Abbassi is coming with that expectation as well.
Are you familiar with the most dangerous areas in Paterson, what those blocks are, and the fact that they had such a large number of police officers that were fired about 10 years ago that have not been replaced? Are you going to bring in a number back up to where it once was, or 100 more police officers?
So I'm very familiar with the decline in the number of officers in this department. I think it's an understaffed department. I have a lot of authority, which is selfishly a good thing. I don't have complete authority over hiring, but we will, as I said on March 27th, We will work with the city, and we're working at the state level to bring resources to supplement the ranks and make sure that we have the resources in this city to provide public safety in tandem and in partnership with the community that it deserves. Sean?
You just mentioned resources. You were pretty frank with the budget committee about that. What resources of the state is the state bringing to bear? I would like a numeral.
You're not going to get a numeral. I'm testifying on Monday, so I know how the budget process works in New Jersey. You're looking at some resources. We've put tremendous resources from some of the best people we have in the state police. It costs money. They've been on the ground for 6 weeks and they're going to stay. We've provided additional equipment. We've provided training. We've been doing that out of existing funds, but I have gotten tremendous support. I have to thank Governor Murphy, who has been very clear that he's going to provide what we need to do this well and to get the job done. The legislature has been very supportive. Legislative leadership, including legislative leaders from Paterson. I want to thank them, who have been tremendously supportive. I don't have an exact number for you, Sean, but I said on March 27th, and I'll say it again. Success is going to cost some money here. I think we have to be realistic. I care about being a good steward of taxpayer dollars, and we will continue to do that. But it's going to require investment. To do community-led law enforcement like this, where we're actually working in partnership, that costs some money. To provide them with the tools they need to keep the public safe, that costs some money. Does it require some officers to work more than they had been in certain environments? Yes, when we do a 4-hour listening session, that requires some money. I mean, all of this is going to take some resources. Not an insane amount, but resources that I believe the city deserves and that I'm going to continue to fight for. But I'll be honest, it hasn't been much of a fighting trend. People have been very supportive of this, from the governor to the legislature to the executive branch, and I can't thank them enough.
Mr. Abbassi, you mentioned the importance of transparency. Several police departments, including the NYPD, have public databases of officer misconduct complaints. Why doesn't Paterson have something like that?
So, yeah, when it comes to public data, there are a lot of things we're looking at. What was happening in Paterson versus what is going to be happening in Paterson is something, that's at the top of the list, right? Having public-facing data, having public-facing dashboards is something we're certainly looking at in a number of areas, including misconduct.
Do we have a CCRB in Patterson, or did you do something similar to that, a CCRB like is in New York?
So CCRBs require statutory authority in New Jersey, but we're looking at citizen advisory boards that will be detailing more.
But you could advocate for that if you wanted to, right?
I'm sorry?
You could advocate for CCRBs with subpoena power. I mean, you're going to be testifying on Monday. It's a good opportunity.
Sure, but as I said, the legislature would have to pass it and the governor would have to sign it. To your question, we do have disclosure in New Jersey under major discipline directives and through the directive that I issued following the Rivera decision. The department will be fully compliant with those.
But is there a public database where people can just go online and search?
Yes, the major discipline directive is public.
Just adding to the success is going to cost money, is it true that the budget has absolutely exploded since you've taken over?
No, that's not true. No, has there been some increase in overtime costs, many of which, that was, by the way, looked at over a 2-month period, only 1 month of which we were here.
And who's that bill?
So we'll work in partnership with the city. The state will, again, be providing resources, but look, again, you're seeing the bill that's being the folks up here, that's being paid for by the state. The training, paid for by the state. The technology, paid for by the state. We will work with the city and provide the resources we need. We found $105 million for a baseball stadium. I think we'll find a few $1,000s to pay overtime.
They're saying it's triple overtime so far.
That's not,
Overtime.
that's false.
And what about the current police chief here? He's making about $200,000.
That's a city decision, so you can defer.
He's not being deferred to Trenton for another.
I can't speak about personnel decisions, but that's a city decision.
Attorney General, I've heard a lot of talk about trust from both of you, and there seem to be systemic problems here within this police department, which is why you're here. This isn't just one incident from March, correct?
Correct.
Tell me, you talked about hiring. Is there anyone that's going to be released from their positions if this is a systemic problem with people who've been in these jobs for many, many years?
I'm not going to speak to individual personnel decisions. One of the things we've done is revamp internal affairs and how we handle internal affairs investigations. They'll be handled promptly, they'll be handled thoroughly, they're being overseen by attorneys from my office. Again, I don't have ultimate decision authority to terminate somebody. That is the city's decision. But if there is somebody that has violated rules such that we make a recommendation, I would hope they would comply with it. That said, I want to be clear, this is not an indictment on every single member of that department. We have hundreds of people there. Are there some people, like in any profession, who shouldn't be wearing a badge? That may be the case. But are there also an overwhelming number of officers who have shown over the past 6 weeks that they want to be a part of this change? Yes, and we want them to know that they're supported as well.
Everybody's had a chance to ask at least one question. We're going to take like one more, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Officer in charge, Abbassi, are you hopeful that you can affect change in the department? Because some people trust you, some people don't. So are you hopeful that you can at least affect positive change or make a difference in the department?
I'm more than hopeful. I know I can affect change. If I didn't think so, I wouldn't be here.
Well, how would you? How would you do that? Because it's going to be a big process.
It certainly is, which is why we have to do this systematically with a plan and execute on the plan. Like you could strategize. The best strategy in the world means nothing if you can't execute. And execution is where we're going to capitalize.
Good way to end it. Thank you.
Can we ask Matt about one other thing though, about Middlesex County, about the investigation into?
No, we're not taking any questions on it. This was just to introduce Officer Abbassi and deal with
Okay.
matters of the
Thank you
day.
very much.
But I'll be happy to take your questions from you. I'm still here. Anybody who came in late, there's documents over on the side, and all of those documents are also available up on the website. And your question, the database is on, there's a statewide database that includes matters by department on the state.